Tutadunda dunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och, jezi namba 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. So moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios, ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni tena.
Now, let's talk politics.
All right, thank you so much. Now, this hour in news and politics, we talk to immigration attorney and District 5 Council candidate, Ms. Fatmata Barrie. Now, Ms. Barrie will be talking about her ongoing campaign. She'll also talk about immigrant rights and protections and how they lead to safer communities, so stay tuned for that. I'm your politics anchor, Ali Badawi. It's Friday, the 4th of March, 2022, and we're coming to you live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to subscribe to our One Mic Show YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. One Mic Kamakawa. We have our resident DJ OmoshFaya. Ruth Kilungu is back on set for the first time this year. And not forgetting, sports anchor Mika Och will also be joining us. Our super producer is none other than Mubelwa Bandio. And we are going to get started with our interview right away. Now, this year, that's 2022, happens to be an important election year in Kenya. But what we might not be paying attention to is that it's also an election year inside the United States. Now, midterm party primaries are coming up for the November 3rd polls, an election that may impact the 2024 presidential race. Now, local elections, however, have taken more of the center stage lately because of the ongoing pandemic. Now, in studio with us tonight is a candidate for Montgomery County's upcoming council election, Ms. Fatmata Barrie. Now, Fatmata is a practicing immigration attorney with over 20 years of experience and founder of the Barrie Law Center in Maryland. She's also a civil rights advocate and a community organizer with focus on civic engagement and coalition building. Now, Fatmata, we want to welcome you to the One Mic Show. And of course, it's not your first time being on the show. And please tell us a bit more about yourself and your background. Fatmata, twende kazi.
Hello, I am Fatmata Barrie. I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa. I came here at the age of 11. So I grew up here in the US. I grew up in South Florida. I'm an attorney. I practice immigration and special education law. And I've been in this state, state of Maryland in Silver Spring, White Oak exactly, for 20 years now. And I am an activist, an advocate, an attorney, and a politician. I am running for Montgomery County Council for the new District 5 here. I live in White Oak, which is the eastern part of the county. And because of the two new districts that we've created here in the council, in the county, there'll be 2 extra seats on the Montgomery County Council. And one of the new ones is this eastern part of the county, which is majority Black and brown and immigrant population. And so we can finally have somebody from this part of town, from the East County, represent us. So that's just a little bit, but I'm sure I can go into more details later.
Okay, thank you so much, Fatmata. And maybe for those who might not know, Ms. Fatmata has been the pro bono, an official immigration law expert of the One Mic Show, and thank you so much for that. She's been in studio previously talking about issues like DACA, the Muslim ban, Trump-era restrictions, and many other immigration-related issues. And like I said earlier, she's still a practicing immigration attorney. Okay, I think...
she's getting an immigration call.
She's getting an immigration call right there.
Live on air.
Okay. So like I was saying, she's been in studio previously talking about issues like DACA, the Muslim ban, Trump-era restrictions, and among many other immigration-related issues. And like I said earlier, she's still a practicing immigration attorney, and you can find the details about her at barrielawcenter.com for those who may need her services. And Barrie is spelled BARRIE. That's barrielawcenter.com. That's for anyone who needs, like any kind of immigration services. You can find her details there. But today we are here not to talk about necessarily her legal practice, because Miss Barrie is running for the District 5 County Council seat in Montgomery County, Maryland. Montgomery County is the biggest county in Maryland, for those who don't know. So maybe to get us started, Fatmata, maybe you can please tell us What inspired you to take time away from your busy law practice to get on the campaign trail for a seat at the Montgomery County Council? Fatmata.
Okay. So I've lived here in Montgomery County for, like I said earlier, about 20 years. And during this time, I have been involved in advocacy work, in activism, providing, as you say, the pro bono services, informational services, work sessions, workshops, and things like that. And over time, I realized that I lived in the part of the county that was missing the resources that I see all over other parts of Montgomery County. And the only thing I could see that was different between us and many other parts of the county is the demographics. The fact that our county has lower income people plus Black and Brown and immigrant communities. And to me, that spelled not having equity and inclusion in our county. We have an amazing county. It's very diverse, very, very diverse, to the point to where 1/3 of the population here in Montgomery County is foreign born. And of that 1/3, when you add the children that they have had here in the U.S., it goes up to 45%. So about 45% of Montgomery County population with their children born here are foreign born. That's a lot. That's a lot. And we have, I believe, 4 of the most diverse cities in the country are here in Montgomery County. So when you look at this demographic and you see what we have, it should boggle the mind that we don't have enough in leadership to reflect that fact. Over 50% of Montgomery County's population is women, and we only have 1 woman in the Montgomery County Council. And that 1 woman terms out this year. And when she terms out, if we do not elect some of the women who are running right now, we will have 11 guys on the council. Nothing against men. However, if we're talking about diversity and inclusion and equity, then we must have women represented on the council. And as we speak, we have 2 Black men on the council. One of them, he terms out this year. And there's 1 more who's an incumbent running for at large. He is the first and only African man, Will Juwando, on the council. His father was Nigerian, his mother is American. If I win, I'll be the first African woman, first African-born person or woman elected to the council. And I'll be the first Muslim woman ever elected to Montgomery County Council. So for the county that we don't have the inclusion and equity and diversity that we celebrate so much, right? We don't have the school resources here. We don't have the economic development on this side of town. We don't have the same level as far as transportation is concerned. People have to leave this community to get proper health care. So there's a lot going on. We've had most of the shootings in this county on this side of town, and of individuals by police officers, right? And we've had maybe about 5 police shootings or so. And of those, about 3 have been Black men, and we only make up about 19% of the population in the county. So when you put all these together and you realize there's so much work to be done, these are the things that made me want to run for office and amplify the voice of my community on the Montgomery County Council.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Fatmata. Quite some information there. Like you mentioned, for example, that there's only 1 woman in the council who's terming out, and then there's only 2 Black people. One who's terming out and another one who's going to be running. How many people does the council have? The total number.
Right now it's 9, but we voted to add 2 new council seats.
Okay.
And because of that, we are going to have 11 council seats.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Now, I want to go ahead right now and introduce the rest of my panel here, because they have quite a few questions for you. I'm going to start with Ruth, who's actually here for the first time this year. She's been away. She's been missing in action. Ruth, first of all, Salimia, the listeners, they've missed you. They were asking about you. And then I know you have a question to Miss Fatmata. Ruth.
Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for asking about me, but also just tuning in today. We cannot be here if you guys do not tune in. So thank you, and thank you for having me back. Yes, a great 2022. Now, politics is something I'm really, really interested in, and as an immigrant, if there's something that I feel that we need to participate in, it's politics. We have this posture of like either we are afraid to participate or to be part of the process, and you like to have you as an immigrant is such a great thing because we have someone to look out for, right? To look up to. My question to you is, what got you to this place? I mean, I understand, there are issues in the county, in the district that you're in, but what got you to this point? Because there's so many barriers to entry for immigrants. That's one. Number two, how do coalesce? How do you bring people together to create a coalition as an immigrant? And I'm sorry I'm using that, but just because I am one and I never know where to start, I thought I should ask that.
Okay, so I grew up in a family where it's always been about service. Even if it's not the traditional term of service, where you have, organizations and you have the things that I do now in my time, we always had people in and out of our home. My parents always had people living with us who needed a place to be, a space to live, or just protection from different things. And I joke around that we had like a revolving door. And during all this time, my father is an engineer. He's a retired now. My father is an engineer. And growing up in South Florida, there were many difficulties as an immigrant man, an African immigrant man in South Florida back in the 80s, and having the audacity to outbid big organizations to build what they call school portables for the Palm Beach School Board, Palm Beach County School Board, and he was crucified. Every obstacle you can think of was put in his way. And I watched as a child growing up, as a teenager, seeing what my father was going through, what my mother was going through, the struggles they had, the fights they had, but still had the backbone and the strength to fight back on a consistent basis. And despite all that, they still gave up themselves to their community. They still had the heart and the soul to do what they have always done, which was help others. And growing up in that environment, and you saw the strength and the determination that regardless of any obstacle that's in your way, if you're determined that you are going to succeed and in the process help your community, then that's what you do. And over time, I grew up in that. Over time, it built in me. And when I decided to go to law school, it was because I was working in a residential program where you had teenagers and I had young men, right? And back then in the 90s, there weren't a lot of rules and policies that protected adolescents. So you will have a kid who's acting out, police will come, literally hog-tie them to get them out or to calm them down. And I had that burning desire to represent the kids. So my initial desire was to be a juvenile criminal defense attorney. It ended up being special education law because I realized that part needs to be taken care of so that we can avoid them getting to that point where they're in residential programming or they're encountering law enforcement. So it's been a myriad of things that have propelled me to this point in my life. And now I'm at the stage of my life where I believe that policy and legislation is what guides, because you can knock on the doors as an advocate. Not that we shouldn't stop, because you need a parallel path to get to the end goal. But you need someone like myself in office who has been the advocate and the activist with heart and purpose to be in the elected official in the elected office to make the laws and the policies and the legislation. Plus, we need to be engaged and involved.
Okay.
And you're only involved and engaged if you see yourself.
All right, that's Miss Fatmata Barrie, and I want to remind the listeners that you are tuned into the Politics Hour of the One Mic Show. We're talking to immigration attorney and District 5 Montgomery County Council candidate, Miss Fatmata Barrie. Miss Barrie was just talking about what inspired her to take time outside of her busy legal practice to run for office. Now, to volunteer or to contribute to Miss Barrie's campaign, please visit her campaign website at fatmatabarrie.com. And Barrie is spelled B for boy, A-R-R-I-E. That's fatmatabarrie.com. And later in the hour, we'll talk about her, how her campaign is addressing issues on discrimination and equity. So stay tuned for that. Then please remember to share our live stream and like our Facebook page. We are also active on both Instagram and YouTube. So please follow, subscribe, and keep spreading the word. Now, actually, before we continue, I know Ruth still has something to say.
It's not a question. Actually, I want to shout out something.
But before you shout out, I just want Uno to say something real quick on what we're going to be talking about in the social segment tonight.
So there has been most guys have watched Ukraine and what's going on, but something has struck very many of us. Something has isolated incidences where Africans themselves being refused to board. However, it's a rinse repeat cycle, because things happen to us, people complain, but something might be done, but it's not truly done. And then it dies down, but blacks and people of color are still visiting and going to the countries where they face a lot of discrimination and stuff. What is the problem? What is the issue that we have to always go? Even we've been warned, don't go to certain places, but we still go there, and more to come.
Okay, so stay tuned for that. That's gonna be in the social segment. And then I know Ruth has something to say. I also want OmoshFaya to get in this conversation because we've not had his voice today. Ruth.
Oh, I just wanted to shout out the background of Fatmata today.
Okay.
Because it has a name. And where she's running from. So actually, if you can just move to your right a little bit.
No, she's fine.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Good.
District 5.
Yes,
okay.
then we can see.
All right. There we can see. And then there's an endorsement alert. Seems like you've been getting a lot of endorsements. But OmoshFaya, let's get in on this conversation.
Hi, Fatmata. Thanks for coming back on the show and communing with us over here at our Kamkunji. Basically, it's our gathering. And so my question to you is, you did say that there's a couple of people who on the council who are terming out. Can you define what term out is and what constitutes a term on the council?
Okay, so terming out means your term ends.
Okay.
So we didn't used to have term limits in Montgomery County until 2016. We voted for term limits. So because that was on the ballot and it was passed, we lost, some council members termed out, meaning they've had 3 4-year terms. So what that means is if you get on the council, you can only be there for 12 years, which I think is a long time.
Okay.
Is it consecutively or just...
Yes.
Or just you can go out and come back again and start your 12 years afresh?
As far as I know, it's 12 years, 3 4-year terms.
Okay. All right.
3 4-year terms. You can only do 3 4-year terms on the council.
Okay.
And then you're termed out and you have to leave. You cannot run for re-election.
So I think you did mention that Will Jawando, is he terming out?
No,
I
Will
thought he
just won
went
in
in.
2018. So he has
Okay.
2 more terms to go. God will, he is going to win. So you all got to support, You all got to support Will Juando.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's our buddy. So so in relation to you being on the council, is there a specific role that you intend to play, or like once you're a council member, do they have like different departments or different areas or committees that folks sit in? And I know that for immigrants, you know you have a heart for immigrants, especially because you actually see what's going on in the White Oak area, and that's a heavily immigrant populated area with a lot of Africans, a lot of Spanish folks in there. Is there anything special you're going to be looking at trying to do once you're in the council?
So within the council, there are different committees
Okay.
that council members are assigned to. Probably what I'll be interested in is public safety,
Okay.
which is with policing and fire and all that, because I'm very interested in policing and safety issues in this county. And health and education. I'll probably be very interested in education because I'm a special ed attorney, and that has been my passion and my work for most of my adult life. I'm very concerned about health disparities. So there are different issues that you can get in on, different committees that you can be part of, and so those are some of the things I'm interested in as far as the council is concerned. And some of the issues I right now have a major interest in economic development, which for me is like the top, because from that you get everything, right? If you have proper work, proper job, good paying job, then it follows that you can pay for housing. So then you can deal with that issue, which we have a lot of, disparity in proper housing. And you can live in a community with better transportation services. And you probably will have better health outcomes because you have a good paying job, you're living in a healthier and safer environment. And so your health outcomes may be better because that plays a huge role in many Black and Brown and people of color not having good health outcomes. One is a lifestyle, because many of us are what you may call the working poor. So these are people who are working very hard every day, shift workers, but making ends meet is very, very difficult. And shift workers are a group of people that we don't really talk much about. They're the people who have to work 2-3 shifts in a day with different jobs. And at the end of the day, don't have the time to go to a PTA meeting at 7 p.m., may not have the time to drive their kids to soccer practice on a Saturday morning because they are going to work, just a whole slew of things. So I'm very interested in dealing with the health disparities, with economic disparities, but especially those three that I spoke about.
Okay, now Fatmata, I first must say that you have a very beautiful campaign website, and that's fatmatabarrie.com for those who've not visited it. Again, I'm going to spell Barrie. It's Barrie, Barrie. That's fatmatabarrie.com. And your campaign platform has been clearly summarized and articulated. But I want us to first focus on the issue of immigration rights and providing safer communities. Now, Fatmata, like some people in our community feel like I have my paperwork in order. I also live in a good neighborhood. So why should I care about matters immigration or living in safe communities? What do you tell this potential voter in District 5, Fatmata?
Very simple. If your neighbor does not feel safe, your neighbor is not safe. Neither are you. I think we have the misconception that our worlds are insular, but they're not. What happens to someone next to you affects you. So this pandemic is a great example of it, right? We know that many of us are vaccinated. We have been, we're boosted, we're staying indoors. When it was at the height of the pandemic, we stayed indoors, we wore masks, we did the whole thing, we did the proper thing. And then there were those who wouldn't do it. And then people say, well, leave them to their own devices if they want to kill themselves, so on and so forth. Besides the fact that that's inhumane and not a way to think about it. But the fact of the matter is, somebody not following those same protocols impacted all of us, not just in the major, which is the deaths and the illnesses because of the infection rates, but it affected our ability to interact with each other. It affected our ability to leave our house. So it's the same process, it's the same concept. Just because you have your papers, just because you feel that you have done all you could for yourself does not mean that you should not be concerned for the person next to you. For you to get to the point to where you are and you're able to get your papers, you feel safe, you feel that everything is in place for you, somebody had to come ahead of you who laid the groundwork for you to be able to get what you have. So we have to learn to be concerned about other people, even if we have gained what we think we need, and so we should not have to worry about others. It's a huge mistake. And all it does is it causes issues within the communities. Because if somebody does not have a good job, they cannot find a good job. Evidence has shown that poverty and crime intersect. They do. So if you want your community and your neighborhood to be economically stable, to be safe environment, then you need to care about your neighbor. You need to care about those who need the resources that you already have. If you don't want to think of it in just the regular way, which is you should care about your fellow human, then look at it in that way.
Okay, all right, that's good. And I want to welcome, like all the other listeners who are coming in here. We have Lennox, a guy saying, hi, my sister. I think Lena is saying hi to Fatmata. And then we have Adhiambo Dak in the building. We have Mapenzi in the building. Karibuni Sana. Feel free to ask questions. I can also see Fab Githinji. Now, I want to bring back this conversation back to the studio. And I want to come to you, Ruth, on this aspect of immigration, because whether we like it or not, this is one of those issues that affects all of us. And as you can see, like there are matters that are being handled on council level about immigration and creating safer communities. Ruth, why do you think that maybe a lot of people in our communities sometimes feel like they're insulated from this issue? Maybe because they have papers, or maybe because they feel like this is no longer their issue. Why do you think our communities, or people who went through the experience of, like having difficulty in getting their paperwork and facing discrimination because of being an immigrant and not having papers, but why do you think people get to a point where they just switch out?
I mean, I'm sure if Fatmata would ascertain to this, it's a hard process. And I think at the end, people just want to be done with the process and just focus on themselves and just shut out the world, And I think we're coming to this place where we're saying that is the beginning of the journey of your stay in America. Just because you got the papers does not mean then you sit down. It means you get involved. You make this place home. Because I mean, if you're gonna have your children here, educate them here, there are other issues that only politics will solve, unfortunately. And I'm sorry to say that, but only politics will solve. And we need to be part of that process. But I would love if I can just ask about Fatmata, what has been our experience actually trying to sell a vision to immigrants? I know there's a huge part of the immigrants who are really involved, but there are some who are really, really, closed out. Disconnected, thank you. How do you reach out to them?
So this is what I've come to realize. I ran for office back in 2018. And I recently found out that I won my precinct here, the White Oak precinct. And this was without having an organization like I have now, which is that I have a campaign coordinator / manager, I have a campaign chair, I have a digital coordinator, digital director, I have a whole team of people now, right? And so things are a lot more organized than they were then. But I want this precinct, which is majority immigrant, Black and brown people. And you realize that it's for our community, like any other community, they want you to come to them. They want you to talk to them. They want you to ask them for your vote. They want you to care about their issues, and they want to see someone like themselves, because that's just the reality. What you have seen, like over the years, we talk about these voting blocks, and we say, oh, people don't like to get engaged. But I kid you not, in 2014, I took over Will Juwando's campaign in this precinct when he was running for state delegate. He didn't get the seat. But you know what happened? That year, the woman who she wins every precinct in the district, lost this precinct to Will Juwando.
Oh, wow.
And she was an incumbent. She had been in office for over 40 years.
Wow, 40 years? That's a long time.
And Will Juwando won this precinct. That is majority Black and brown and immigrant population. I say all that to say, and when I ran in 2018, there were a couple of incumbents, but I still beat them in this precinct. I say all that to say, like any other group of people, you want to see you represented. We're no different. You want to see yourself represented. And this is why it's important for us to be more engaged civically, especially for those of us who have the wherewithal to do it. If you have thought about running for office, do it.
Okay.
If you want your people to get engaged, run for office.
Okay. You see,
That is good.
Yeah, you're being told to get engaged, and I also want to get like OmoshFaya back on the conversation. But before we do that, I'm gonna read a quick comment here from coming from Pablo, where he says, I believe we should move from just being excited that we have the papers to live in this country, to being excited about participating in the political space, school district positions, etc., etc. So that's a very good comment. Now back to you, Fatmata, and your campaign actually has made a deliberate emphasis on equity, and your platform addresses equity in economic development, in education, in healthcare, and also addresses equity in housing. Now, I want you to go back to that potential voter, because we're trying to, get into the mind of the voter, of the potential voter, who feels like, I live in a good school district. So why should I care about equity in education and housing? There are those who also say that I have a good job that provides me with good healthcare. So why should I care about equity in healthcare and in economic development? Now, Fatmata, I want you to talk to these voters and maybe tell them what they might not be seeing, or where maybe they might be having a blind spot, and of what significance you'll be to them should you win the District 5 County Council seat. Fatmata.
So maybe most part of the county, but in our district, there may be some people who think everything is fine, but especially if you're a parent in District 5, in this new District 5, if you're a parent in East County, you know that your schools are old. You know that the school system, like the buildings, are old. You know that you're short on teachers. You know that you're short on mental health professionals for your child in the school. And you know that there's a lot of traffic on US 29 if you live in this district. And you know that getting a bus from here or getting public transit from here to go to Bethesda to work will take you over an hour to get to work. By the time you've taken the bus from here to go downtown Silver Spring, catch the metro that takes you through DC to take you back up into Montgomery County, you've done over an hour in transit just to go to work. You know there needs to be change. You know there's not equity because you know if you live on the upper side of Montgomery County, if you live in Chevy Chase, Bethesda, nothing wrong with them, right? But you know that when you walk into their schools, you can see the difference.
Now,
You see the difference.
Now, here, you know, like this is a point where I think I also want to bring this conversation back to the studio. Because there's a lot of, you know, like once you get your papers, there's a lot of just coasting and just moving along and just winging it because you feel like you've gotten your papers and everything is being taken care of. So, the issue of, you know, like maybe parents, you know, like working double shifts, they know that they're in a good school district, you know, like you're in Montgomery County, and they're just moving on, and they're not, you know, trying to figure out, you know, like the certain, even within the same county, these schools are not created equal. You know, like there's some schools where students are graduating high school with associate's degrees, whereas there's schools like Fatmata is saying in District 5, where, you know, like you have old buildings and you don't have all these fancy programs that you find in other schools in other sides of the county. What is it that you think needs to be done to awaken people to the fact that just simply being in a good school district is not enough?
There has to be, I think, one thing that has to be really impressed on parents is participation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say participation, and I'm going to specifically target my African brothers and sisters from Kenya. Not to say that they don't participate, but they participate to a level where it is touch and go, but more or less they're thinking about doubles or the extra money that they have to make, not knowing or concerned about what's going on probably in either Azimio or UDA. Yet they don't live there. They are currently living here, working here. Kids are going to school here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if you're not even, if you only go to school because you've been summoned because of a call or whatever, but then there are other things that happen. And if you don't participate in those other things that happen within the school or within even the community, then you miss out. You're not a voice for your child. You're not a voice for your children. There has to be, an impression has to be made where parents need to start thinking long term. If you're Kenyan, your kids are, yes, they have Kenyan blood, but they're American. If your kids, you know, you may be from Sierra Leone, but your kids being born here, they are American. In as much as they are Sierra Leonean, they are Kenyan, Nigerian, but they were born here. Their friends were here. Conversations, whatever they talk about, whenever they meet, whenever they're in Snapchat or TikTok or whatever, they're not talking about ugali or, you know, modokoi or fish or suya. They're like, yo, TikTok, you remember? It's conversation, even as parents will be like, what you're talking about? So it is, which means that decisions made within the school, within your county, if you do not lend your voice, that means, you know, that is one less voice if you want to have a certain change, which means that if your child was to benefit from, let's say, for example, what Fatmata might be proposing, that would benefit your child, but you're busy working your double or triple, then you miss out on that. I think it's also high time that, you know, in as much as we engage in politics in the 254, but we really need to, and we've always impressed on this, and insisted on participating in local politics because politics is local. Biden can go and challenge and block or whatever, but, and I think, Ali, you've done this before, where if you don't participate in choosing who is going to be your sheriff, your judge, or a local judge, or your sheriff, or your local MCA, the equivalent of an MCA or whatever.
Yeah, or even who's going to be in your school board.
Who's going to be on your school board? And
Yeah.
we had somebody, we
Your
had a
local school
Kenyan
board,
who was running for that. Then your voice will not be represented. That means that whoever has been selected, they write the story, they write the rules, they pass laws that
affect your child.
affect your child.
Yeah.
And again, your child is not going to go to Braeburn or is not going to go to St. Mary's. Right now, your child is in Montgomery County going to, I don't know the schools in Montgomery County, I know Baltimore County.
Blair.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe getting...
Bethesda Chevy Chase. Winston Churchill.
You know, like if there are food programs, if there are tickets or what do you call it? Whatever programs, whatever things that can facilitate and actually help your child. If you don't have your voice and you don't have a representative, having a voice means you choose a representative who's going to fight for you, which means Fatmata might be the ideal person to fight for you. But you have to participate if you are concerned about your child or children.
Okay. Now, real quick, before we go back to Ruth and Omosh, Fatmata, there's the issue of inequity in housing. And for some people, because they've already bought a home, they don't quite understand, you know, like what inequity in housing is about. And it's one of the issues that your platform has been, you know, like talking about in detail. And you have a lot of details about inequity in housing within Montgomery County and within District 5. What is it that people need to know? Even people who have already bought houses, they probably have $200,000 in equity. What is it that they need to know about inequity in housing? Fatmata.
So if you know anything on Montgomery County, our median household income is about 110,000 or more a year. That's our median household income. But when you break it down, white household make about 140,000 or so, and Asian households make about 120 or so. Latino, Latinx community, white households make about 75, I think, and Black households make about 72 or $73,000 a year. The median home in Montgomery County is about 600,000 or more.
Ouch. I did not even know that.
Come again? So how much?
About $600,000.
Yep.
We do. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that in White Oak or?
That's across Montgomery County, I think.
That's the median in Montgomery County. But even in White Oak, townhouses that were built here, when I bought my townhouse, ran about $600,000.
So you're sitting
And
on.
this was back in 2006.
So those are probably about 800 now, maybe.
Well, if you own it, the market went down,
Okay.
right? But as they're building,
Correct.
so imagine many people who live on this side of town don't make that $100,000 a year, that 80. They don't make that. We have many people here who are making $30-something thousand a year.
Correct.
They cannot afford to buy a home, not even on this side of town.
Okay.
And our apartments on this side of town range, one-bedroom apartment, you can probably about $1,500 a month, $1,900 a month.
Wow.
That's a lot.
And many people who live here are shift workers. So you know what that means. So you have somebody who is working hourly wages. So and then we tout this $15 an hour wage. Did you know $15 an hour is $600 a week before taxes?
That's on a full-time shift.
On a 40-hour.
On a 40-hour shift.
If you're doing 40 hours a week.
Okay. And that might add up to around 30K a year. So that's not a lot of money.
Before taxes.
Before taxes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not a lot of money.
What do you bring home? If, as a shift worker, you have a family, that's what you're doing. So we have to put things in perspective, right? I like to say the fact that I live in White Oak. We have mixed immigrant households. You have some who are documented and undocumented members within the same family. And then within the community, we have mixed income. You have some of us who are middle class and many who are not. Or if they fit into the middle class, it's because they're working so many hours to get to that. So when you put all that together, and then you look at the apartment buildings that we have in the community, where when you walk into the apartment, you can smell the mold, you can taste it in the back of your throat.
Wow.
That's housing inequity.
And I think, like a lot of people are actually maybe unaware, like of that, just because they're going through the motions, going to work, coming back home. They may not even be aware they're living in an apartment that's full of mold, and that might be affecting their health and the health of the children. So I think that's a very big point, to a lot of people, even those who already have their own apartments or own your own homes. I think that's something very important to consider. And I want to remind the listeners that you are tuned into the Politics Hour of the One Mic Show. And we're talking to Immigration Attorney and District 5 Montgomery County Council candidate, Ms. Fatmata Barrie. Now, Ms. Barrie is talking about, how her campaign will be addressing, like equity issues in the county. Now, to volunteer to or contribute to Ms. Barrie's campaign, please visit her campaign website. That's fatmatabarrie.com. Barrie is spelled B for boy, A-R-R-I-E. That's fatmatabarrie.com. And later in the hour, she will provide more details on how to get involved in her campaign. So stay tuned for that. Then please remember to share our live stream, like our Facebook page. We are also active on both Instagram and YouTube. So please follow, subscribe, and keep spreading the word. Now, Fatmata, as we're wrapping up, because time is really moving fast when very good nuggets are coming in. I can see people appreciating the information that you're giving. I can see here Stephen Bati, Karibu Sana. Stephen Bati says, Leo, you guys have bongad points. Wah, way, that's Kenyanese. I don't know whether Fatmata understands that. But Pablo says...
Kenyan lingua.
The Pablo says the shows this year have been on another level, and we appreciate you so much, Pablo. We are still looking for a sponsor. Maybe when Fatmata, becomes, like council member, like maybe she might, we might be her official media partners.
She may make the dollars flow this way.
Yes, so maybe we'll talk about that later after the show. But as we wrap up, Fatmata, your campaign platform also addresses senior citizens and issues facing them. From your campaign website, it says that according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the number of seniors in Montgomery County, Maryland is projected to double. That's from between 2010 and 2040. And for the first time in history, people over the age of 65 will outnumber children under the age of 5. So Fatmata, please tell us, what are some of the pertinent issues that Council Member Fatmata Barrie plans to address for the benefit of our viewers who might already be senior citizens? Yes, we have people who listen to us who are senior citizens, and or even parents or people who have parents who are in that age bracket.
Don't
Fatmata.
call Omosh out, please.
No, I wasn't gonna call him.
Let Omosh prosper.
I wasn't gonna mention him, but you mentioned him. He's approaching. He's approaching being a senior citizen.
I didn't say all that.
But,
Leave Omosh alone.
I didn't say all that, bro.
Yeah, but Fatmata, how are you gonna? How are you addressing people who have maybe parents who are in that age bracket?
So we have a lot, many instances of fraud involving seniors, our aging population here in Montgomery County. And I think we don't talk about it as much, but it affects them because they're targeted. They're very targeted, and it's to bring that to light and hopefully have a system in place where we can help our aging population with that issue is making sure that they can retire in place, meaning they can retire in their homes. So those who have lived in their homes, especially, people have been in their homes for 30 years or more. And in East County, especially out here, we have what's called the White Oak Sands Gateway Master Plan and some other master plans, Hill and Dale Master Plan. We have what's called the Viva White Oak. All these things are happening, which means it's progression, right? They're redeveloping. But whenever we redevelop, there's a chance of gentrification. And when you gentrify, unfortunately, that means housing becomes more expensive. And the more housing becomes expensive, the higher the tax bracket is for the community. And if you, as an aging person, live in your home and you have a fixed income, you could conceivably lose your home because you cannot pay for the current and new taxes that are now being levied against your property. So it's to bring those to light and figure out ways and find solutions for our aging population as we redevelop this East County and this District 5. So those are just two things. There are other things, but those are just two that we can talk about in the short period of time that we have.
All right. Now, as we wrap up, okay, I think that's Mika. Mika, real quick, you have a question? Time do you?
Yes, I wanted to steal on your time a little bit. So, Fatmata, I know that the district that you are vying for, District 5, is one of the most immigrant populous districts, especially if you look at the areas it covers around Silver Spring and all the areas around it. My question is that we see that on getting at par with the economic inequality, most of the things that the immigrants have done is getting into business. What are some of the things that your candidacy wants to look at in making it easy for immigrants to get licenses or even to get permits on doing the business, and also in terms of funding with the minority fundings or with any other state or local funding that might be available for them?
So part of the plan is because Montgomery County, at least 80% of our businesses are small businesses in this county. And many of them are immigrant owned. Many of them are owned by Black and brown people. And in this side of the county, we have many. So it's to provide easier resources, whether it's funding at the county level, to where people can request grants, request small business loans, and make it easier for them. And one of the greatest things I think we're always missing is access to the information. So many times by the time you find out about the information, you only have a couple of days or a week or whatnot to apply for this thing. And then by that time, others have already gone in before you have, and you are just left out. So it's providing access to information early and making sure that information is in a language that people can understand, because that is missing many, many, many times. There are people who could conceivably file and request funding, but they can't do it because they don't have the information, because they don't have the information in their language, and because they don't know how to fill out the information. And it's also to provide education on how to navigate this system and provide it consistently and do it in such a way that it gets to the people. So it's not sending out all these email blasts that a person may not have access to, because we see that a lot. We say we provide information by sending out email blasts, except that I'm not on your email list. So therefore, I didn't get the information, and therefore I cannot apply for this thing. So it's providing access and making sure that people are aware of where they can go. So I am hoping and praying that I get into office, and with me in the office, making sure that there's an open door and a concerted effort to reach into communities that we were not used to reaching into, including having media outlets like yourselves, other minority and African immigrant-owned media outlets to have access to what the council is doing, because that's the only way you're going to find out things. and those kind of things, and figure out how we can do that. So that's part of what I would love to do for small businesses, provide the resources, make it easier access, and make it easier to understand, and make sure that the monies are there and the funding is there to provide for these small minority-owned or people of color, brown, Africans, and immigrant-owned businesses.
Okay, and Pablo here is saying, thank you. I've hardly seen any information paperwork in Swahili. So language is very important in information dissemination. That's a very good question, coming from Mika. Mika, I hope your question was answered. And also, please just quickly tell us what we're going to be talking about in the sports segment that's coming up. Mika.
Thank you, Elias. My question was answered. Today in sports, we're going to take a look again at how or the effects of the Russian invasion of Ukraine in sports. We're going to discuss about the possible ownership or actually closure of certain Premier League teams that are owned or have Russian interest. We're also going to talk about Mr. Africa or Mr. Kenya, Ferdinand Omanyala, on how he's doing on the European meets, how he's lighting it up and the speed that he's running at. And also, we are going to take a few minutes and delve into the basketball world on the continuing African World Cup qualifiers that Kenya is currently participating. Back to you, Oli.
Okay, thank you so much, Mika. And Pablo is saying, don't talk about the Lakers. Thank you. Lakers don't get you but die. But now, again, like I said, our time is really running out. But I'll close this by saying, Fatmata, there are many other issues on your campaign platform. These are issues, including access to transportation, environmental justice, youth affairs, among so many other issues that maybe we do not have time to address today. But Ms. Barrie, we want you to close this out by giving us your parting shot and to Montgomery County District 5 voters, and also to tell the viewers and anybody who might be listening how they can get involved in your campaign, regardless of their location, because I know, your team has people who are in District 5, somewhere in Montgomery County, and some even who are from outside the county. So just give us a brief of how someone can get involved and give us your parting shot. Fatmata.
Thank you. And I'll come back whenever you want me to come back to and talk about the other things. So you can reach me at my website, www.fatmatabarrie.com. Please get engaged. Join the movement, because this is a movement. It's a movement for equity and inclusion in this county. It's a movement for truth telling. I have been endorsed by more people, more organizations than anybody else. There are 8 of us running in this race, 8 of us. And of the 8 of us, I've had endorsement from the Teachers Union, from CASA in Action, the largest immigrant advocacy group in the region, from Women of Color Coalition, and very, important and wonderful individuals in the community and elected officials. Will Juwanda has endorsed my campaign. Maya Rakima Cummings, Elijah Cummings' widow, has endorsed my campaign. And she was also the chair of the Maryland Democratic Party. And one of the women who held the position here on the council, Sherry Brownson, endorsed my campaign. And a really great friend of mine, Brandy Brooks, who's running for at large, endorsed my campaign. So I've had public endorsements probably more than anyone else on this race. We have a fantastic race, and I have a great team of people, and I want to thank them today for all the work that they're doing. And because of the hard work and the support, we have gained all these endorsements. But I need your help. If you want somebody who can fight for you, but also knows how to negotiate, I'm the woman that you want on the council. If you want parity, if you want somebody who's going to fight for equity and inclusion, I'm the woman you want on the council. If you want to see a diverse community represented on the council, you want me to be on the council. You want to fight with me to make sure that District 5 and the voices of District 5 are amplified on the council. I don't want to be your voice. I want to amplify your voice because you have a voice. And I want to make sure that that voice is heard loud and clear by everyone who is in power. And I will be with you every step of the way. I will have an open door policy. I will ensure that we work together because I'm ready to work with you and for you to make sure that your issues are front and center on the council. The fight and the effort that we have not had in the East County, you will have with me in office on the Montgomery County Council, representing you, District 5 Council people. So I ask you for your support. I ask you for your vote. I ask you, my African people, for any of you who are registered as, and you think you're registered as independent, please register as a Democrat. Because in Montgomery County, only 2 types of people can vote in the primary election, besides the nonpartisan, like the Board of Elections and judge. You can vote in those. But the state of Maryland has what's called a closed primary. And a closed primary means only Democrats and Republicans can vote in the primary. And only Democrats can vote for me. That's it. Only Democrats can vote for me. So if you want to see me in office, please register as a Democrat and vote for me in June. Because whoever wins the June primary, the Democratic primary, will more than likely win in November. Because there's about 3-1 Democrats in Montgomery County. Okay? 3-1 Democrats to Republican. So I'm asking you for your support. I'm asking you for your vote. I'm asking you for your donations. You can be anywhere in the country. If you're a permanent resident or U.S. citizen, you can donate to my campaign. But you don't have to be either one to volunteer, whether to make phone calls from wherever you are in the country, write postcards from wherever you are in the country, and help us spread the word. Put it out. I'm on social media. Push out anything you see I post. If you can share it onto your social media platforms, that will give us a lot of visibility and bring in more people. I need an army of volunteers to win this race because it is competitive. There's 7 of us, and I need you. So thank you very much. Thank you for this time. I really appreciate everything, and I will be back if you let me. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And lady, I really appreciate it. And it's so great to meet you.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's Fatmata Barrie. You know, I'm gonna let the lady
I'm
say.
sold. I'm sold.
Yeah, I know. I'm sold. You know, like you have my vote. I don't know whether I can vote in District 5, but regardless, you have my vote. You know, like I'm already inspired to go on the website and register as a volunteer, and I'm even inspired to go and donate with the little dollars or shillings that I have. That was really amazing, Ruth.
No,
And Montgomery County residents, when you donate, your donation are matched by the county.
Oh, good.
oh wow.
So I think we're gonna call you for a part 2. This needs a
We
part
have
2.
to.
What is the date? What is the date for the primary? You know, so that we can we
The
can
primary
be
is
in
on
tune.
June the 28th. And then we have early voting, I believe, on the 3rd, starting on the 13th. Don't quote me on that. I have to look that up to be
Okay.
sure. But we have a week or so of early voting before the election on June 28th.
Okay, we must have a part 2. You know, like before that primary, before early voting starts. Ruth.
That was amazing, Fatmata. And if anything, you've inspired me to participate in your campaign because I actually do want to get into politics in the US. I really do. But I want to start, from where you are, work with you, see what's happening. So I need to come to do you have an office? I want to show up there.
As soon as you contact me, I'll tell you where to come.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. And we have
Perfect.
some people online. Please go to the website and volunteer and register as a volunteer.
Yeah, and someone please, you know, like just go to the website so that we can put a link on the comments here so that people can actually go on the website. It's a very nice website. It has a lot of details. And I think we're going to have a conversation with you with who designed that website because we might need to talk to them.
Yeah, we need a webmaster.
Yeah, we need a webmaster too.
Yeah.
He's African.
Okay, all right. We might just need him, you know, like tell him to be on standby
Is it called
because
Patel?
no, there's no African who's
There's
called
no
Patel.
African.
They are.
Well,
But,
they are there, but this particular African is
Yeah,
not Patel.
we want, you know, like a good web designer like the one who designed the website for Miss Barrie. But again, with that said, this is it for the News and Politics Hour. I want to thank Miss Fatmata Barrie for her time, but we want you to stay tuned for more content coming up. Uno, please remind the viewers real quick what we shall be discussing later tonight in the social segment.
are going to be discussing the plight of the African or the black immigrant in countries where they are really not accepted. European countries, to be precise.
Okay, so you want to stay tuned and keep it locked because we are going to be coming back on that. Please remember to share our live stream and like our Facebook page. To those streaming on YouTube, this is the point where we say goodbye, but you can come back and join us on our Facebook live stream. And please remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on all our social media handles and keep spreading the word. Mimi ni mtangazaji wenu Ali Badawi, aka Mjukuu wa Masai, and you're still tuned in to the One Mic Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, mabibi na mabwana, this is still a non-core presentation of the One Mic Show. www.onemicshow.com 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend that the People's Kamkunji is in full effect. DJ Machachari Buraboska there.